Why didn't you serve my mother? Madam, we're following instructions. Whose instructions? The groom's mother.
Mom, why would you do that?
Oh, please.
Mom!
I spent millions on this wedding.
So?
I already settled her family.
The wedding of Mirabel and Kelvin was the biggest event the town had seen in years. People talked about it everywhere. At the market, at the motor park, even inside churches. Did you hear? The politician's son is marrying a poor girl. That cleaner's daughter? Yes, so the same girl. Some people were happy for Mirabel. Others were waiting to see how the story would end, because everybody knew one thing. Mrs. Vivian Douglas, Kelvin's mother, was not a woman who liked poor people. Not at all. 3 months earlier, the traditional marriage had shaken both families. Mirabel's only surviving uncle, Uncle Sunday, had stood like a lion during the bride price negotiations. After years of watching his late brother's wife suffer alone, he was determined to not let them be cheated. "You people have money, Abi?" he said boldly. "Then pay properly." The list was long, very long. At one point, one elderly man from Kelvin's family removed his glasses and wiped sweat. "Is this marriage or international business?" he complained. Everybody laughed, but they paid. Millions disappeared that day. Still, Kelvin smiled because he loved Mirabel. He would have paid double. After the traditional marriage, wedding preparations began, and Mrs. Vivian took complete control. Nobody could challenge her, not even her husband, not even Kelvin. She selected the venue, she selected the decoration, she selected the caterers, she selected the guest list. Everything had to scream money. The wedding hall looked like a palace. Crystal chandeliers, fresh flowers imported from abroad, expensive cars lined the compound. Politicians, business tycoons, celebrities, every big name was there. Reporters moved around taking pictures. People whispered, "This wedding must have cost hundreds of millions." Meanwhile, Mama Grace, Mirabel's mother, arrived quietly. She wore her best wrapper, the one she had been saving for years. She looked at herself in the mirror before leaving home. "My daughter is getting married today." Tears filled her eyes. She remembered the days she sewed akara under the sun, the days she washed clothes for people, the days she went to bed hungry so Mirabel could eat. Today was supposed to be her happiest day. Little did she know, it would become her most painful day. Inside the reception hall, Mrs. Vivian called the head caterer aside. Her voice was cold. "Listen carefully." "Yes, ma." "You see those people from the bride's side?" The caterer blinked. "Ma, do not serve them." The woman blinked. "Ma, only serve important guests. Politicians, businessmen, special guests. Anybody else must show invitation." The caterer swallowed hard. "Okay, ma. And if anybody gives you trouble," she smiled, "send them away." The reception started. Music filled the air. Food flowed like water. Big men were eating. Big women were laughing loudly. Champagne bottles popped. But on the bright side, people sat hungry, confused, embarrassed. One of Mirabel's cousins approached a food stand. The server blocked him. "Invitation card." The young man laughed. "Invitation? I'm family." "No card, no food." "What? No card, no food." The cousin walked away in shame. Soon, Mama Grace herself became hungry. She had not eaten since morning. She approached a caterer politely. "My daughter, please, can I have food?" The caterer looked at her, then at her simple wrapper. "Invitation card?" Mama Grace smiled. "I am the bride's mother." The caterer frowned. "Sorry, ma. No card, no food." Mama Grace thought she didn't hear well. "My daughter is the bride." "Sorry, ma. Those are our instructions." The old woman froze. For a moment, she couldn't speak. Then she slowly walked away. A few minutes later, Mirabel noticed her mother's swollen eyes. "Mama, what's wrong?" Mama Grace forced a smile. "Nothing." "Mama." After much pressure, she finally told her. Mirabel's face changed immediately. "What?" She rushed to the food section. "Why didn't you serve my mother?" The caterer looked terrified. "Madam, we're following instructions." "Whose instructions?" The woman hesitated, then whispered, "The groom's mother." Silence. Mirabel felt her chest tighten. No, not today, not on her wedding day. She looked around the hall. Suddenly, everything made sense. Her cousins were sitting quietly, her uncle looked angry, even her childhood friends were standing outside. Some had been denied entry, others were chased away because they looked poor, because they were not important enough, because they belonged to her. Tears gathered in Mirabel's eyes. She marched straight to Kelvin. "Your mother did this?" Kelvin's smile disappeared. "What happened?" She explained everything. His face turned pale. "What?" He immediately confronted his mother. "Mom, why would you do that?" Mrs. Vivian rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. Mom, I spent millions on this wedding. So? I already settled her family." Kelvin stared at her. She continued. "They should be grateful. Mom, whether they eat or not, what difference does it make?" For the first time, Mirabel had those words herself. Whether they eat or not, what difference does it make? Something broke inside her completely. Slowly, she removed her wedding heels. Everybody stared. The music continued. Nobody understood what was happening. Then she lifted her wedding gown slightly and began walking toward the exit. "Mirabel!" Kelvin shouted. She didn't stop. "Mirabel!" Still, she kept walking. The entire hall became silent. Even the musicians stopped playing. People stood up from their seats, confused, whispering, watching. Outside the hall, Mirabel finally turned around. Tears streamed down her face. She looked directly at Kelvin, for the first time in years, not as the man she loved, but as the son of the woman who had destroyed her dignity. "I cannot do this anymore." Kelvin froze. "Mirabel, no. Listen, no." Her voice echoed. Everybody heard, even the guests outside. "Today was supposed to be the happiest day of my mother's life." She pointed toward the hall. "But your family turned it into her greatest humiliation." "Mirabel, please. I have ignored too many red flags." Silence. Then she said the words nobody expected, the words that made the entire crowd gasp. "I'm not marrying you anymore."
The moment Mirabel shouted, "I'm not marrying you anymore," the entire wedding ground exploded. What? Did she just cancel the wedding? On her wedding day, people immediately brought out their phones. Some guests forgot about food completely. Even the MC became confused. The poor man was still holding the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody listened to him. The wedding had turned into a live drama. Kelvin stood frozen. His expensive suit suddenly felt heavy. "Mirabel, please." But Mirabel was already walking away. Her mother quickly ran after her. "Mirabel, My daughter. Mama Grace held her hand. Please, don't do this. Mirabel looked at her. Mama, after everything they did to you? Mama Grace wiped her tears. I know. They insulted me. I know. They treated us like animals. I know. But my daughter. Her voice broke. Let's go home first. Inside the wedding hall, Mrs. Vivian sat comfortably, like nothing had happened. One of her friends leaned closer. Vivian, your daughter-in-law just cancelled the wedding. Mrs. Vivian sipped her drink. So? The woman almost choked. So? Yes, she will come back. How are you so sure? Mrs. Vivian smiled. Because poor people don't have choices. That evening, Mirabel sat quietly in her room. Her wedding gown was still on the bed. Looking at it made her heart ache. She genuinely loved Kelvin. That was the painful part. Kelvin was not a bad man. He was kind, gentle, respectful. But whenever his mother appeared, he became silent, like a schoolboy, and Mirabel was tired, very tired. Meanwhile, Mrs. Vivian summoned her husband, Chief Douglas, the famous businessman, and Kelvin. Her face looked dangerous. You embarrassed me today. I warned you never to marry from a poor family. Kelvin frowned. Mom, you embarrassed yourself. The room became silent. Even Chief Douglas slowly turned his head. Nobody spoke to Vivian like that, especially not her son. What did you say? Kelvin gathered courage. I said you embarrassed yourself. You insulted her family. You humiliated her mother. Mrs. Vivian stood up immediately. Slap! The sound echoed. Kelvin touched his cheek. He was shocked. Even his father looked uncomfortable. You dare speak to me like that? Kelvin looked at his mother. For the first time in years, he said nothing. He simply walked out. Back at Mirabel's family house, everybody had gathered. Her uncle, her cousins, even distant relatives. The atmosphere was heavy. Nobody knew what to say. Finally, Uncle Sunday cleared his throat. Mirabel, she looked up. You need to go back. Mirabel blinked. What? You heard me. The room became uncomfortable. Mama? Mirabel turned to her mother. Mama Grace lowered her head. My daughter. You too? Tears filled Mirabel's eyes. Even her own mother. Uncle Sunday continued. Do you know how much bride price they paid? Mirabel remained silent. Millions. They spent millions, and the traditional marriage alone cost a fortune. So? The old man almost jumped. So, if you refuse to marry him, they will demand everything back. The room became silent. Mirabel felt cold. Just then, a car stopped outside. Everybody looked through the window. 3 black luxury cars, the kind only rich people drove. The gate opened. Mrs. Vivian stepped out, with 2 lawyers and several security men. The entire compound became quiet. Mrs. Vivian entered the sitting room. Her expensive perfume filled the air. She sat down without greeting anybody, then crossed her legs. You have 24 hours. Nobody understood. 24 hours for what? Uncle Sunday asked. She smiled. A simple choice. She looked directly at Mirabel. You either return to my son's house, or she turned to the lawyers. One lawyer immediately brought out documents. The house, the supermarket, everything. Mirabel's mother almost collapsed. Mrs. Vivian continued. We paid for all of them. We have the documents. If she refuses this marriage, she shrugged. We take everything back. The room became silent. Then she added another bomb. The lawyer opened another file. And since she rejected the marriage after collecting a huge amount of bride price, the entire bride price must be refunded. Mama Grace gasped. Uncle Sunday almost fell from his chair. Refund? Millions? Where would we find such a money? Mirabel slowly stood up. So, this is about money? Mrs. Vivian laughed. What else? You think my son was supposed to marry somebody like you? The room froze. You should be thanking me. I changed your family's life. I brought you people out of poverty. I gave your mother a business. I gave you a house. And this is how you repay me? Mirabel felt tears burning her eyes, but she refused to cry. Not in front of this woman. Never again. Mrs. Vivian stood up. 24 hours. She adjusted her handbag. If I don't see my daughter-in-law in my son's house tomorrow, she smiled coldly. You people will lose everything. Then she walked away, leaving silence behind. The moment her convoy left, Mama Grace burst into tears. My daughter, what are we going to do? The shop, the house, we'll lose everything. Mirabel's heart broke. She had never seen her mother cry like this. Never. Relatives whispered. Everybody had the same answer. Mirabel should go back. Just endure it. Many women are suffering worse. At least you are rich. At least your husband loves you. At least your family has a house. The words kept hitting her. Again and again and again. At evening, Mirabel stood up. I'm going for a walk. Nobody stopped her. She needed fresh air, needed space, needed to breathe. She walked aimlessly through the quiet streets. Tears rolled down her face. Was everybody right? Should she sacrifice her happiness to save her family? Should she return to a life of humiliation? Was being poor really a crime? Suddenly, a black luxury car stopped beside her. The window slowly rolled down. A handsome young man looked at her. He seemed concerned. Excuse me. Mirabel quickly wiped her tears. The stranger frowned. Are you okay? Mirabel forced a smile. I'm fine. The man laughed softly. No, you're not. For the first time that evening, somebody had noticed.
The young man looked at Mirabel carefully. No, you're not fine. Mirabel quickly wiped her tears. She hated crying in front of strangers, especially rich-looking strangers, because rich people always asked questions, and most times they never cared about the answers. I'm okay, she said again. The young man smiled. If you're okay, then I'm the President of America. Despite everything she was going through, Mirabel almost laughed. Almost. The man stepped out of the car. He looked to be in his early 30s. Simple black shirt, simple wristwatch, nothing flashy. Yet there was something about him, something calm, something different. My name is Daniel. Mirabel nodded. I'm Mirabel. The moment she mentioned her name, his eyes widened slightly. The Mirabel? She frowned. You know me? Daniel chuckled. Half of the town knows you. Mirabel groaned. Wonderful. Her humiliation had become breaking news. Daniel pointed at a nearby bench. Can we sit? Normally, Mirabel would refuse, but she was exhausted. Emotionally exhausted. She sat down. Daniel sat beside her. Not too close, not too far. Just enough to show respect. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. The night was quiet. Then Daniel broke the silence. So, wedding cancelled? Mirabel closed her eyes. Even strangers knew. Fantastic. At this point, even mosquitoes probably knew. Daniel laughed. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked. Mirabel sighed. No, it's okay. Then slowly, for the first time, she began telling her story. Everything. The insults, the humiliation, the suffering, the threats, the house, the supermarket, the bride price, everything. Daniel listened quietly, without interrupting, without judging, without looking at his phone, and strangely, that made Mirabel feel better. When she finished, Daniel shook his head. Wow, that's all? Mirabel frowned. That's all? Yes. She almost hit him. Daniel quickly raised both hands. Wait. I'm serious. She stared at him. Daniel smiled. Mirabel, you're talking like your life has ended. It hasn't. You still have your dignity. You still have your self-respect. And trust me, he pointed at her heart, Those things are worth more than houses. Mirabel became silent. Nobody had said that to her. Everybody only talked about the house, the supermarket, the money. Nobody cared about her feelings. For the first time in days, Mirabel smiled. A real smile. Small, but real. Daniel noticed it. There it is. What? The smile. Oh, Olga, please. Daniel laughed loudly. The sound was infectious. Soon, Mirabel found herself laughing too. For a few minutes, she forgot her problems. Back at home, things were getting worse. Mama Grace had cried herself to sleep. Uncle Sunday was making calculations again and again. No matter how he calculated it, the amount remained impossible. Millions, pure millions. Where would they find such money? Sell the house? The house belonged to the politician's family. Sell the supermarket? Same problem. Nothing belonged to them. The next morning, Kelvin arrived. Alone. No convoy, no security, no mother, just Kelvin. When Mirabel saw him, her heart squeezed. She still loved him. That was the problem. Love does not disappear overnight. Kelvin looked tired, very tired, like someone who hadn't slept. "Can we talk?" Mirabel nodded. They sat inside the compound, a beautiful modern duplex they built for them, the same place where they used to laugh together, the same place where he promised to protect her. For a while, nobody spoke. Then Kelvin finally said, "I'm sorry." Mirabel looked away. "I'm sorry I failed you." Her eyes filled with tears. "Kelvin." "No." He shook his head. "Let me finish. I kept hoping my mother would change. I kept hoping things would get better. I kept asking you to endure. I kept asking for more time." He lowered his head. "But I never protected you." Silence. Painful silence. Then he surprised her. "I'll leave my family." Mirabel froze. "What?" "I'll leave everything. The business, the money, the inheritance, everything." Mirabel stared at him. "I'll start again, just me and you. We'll build our own life." His voice trembled. "Please don't leave me." For a moment, Mirabel's heart almost gave in. Almost. But then she remembered her mother's tears, the insults, the humiliation, the wedding day, the food, the laughter, the shame. Everything came rushing back. Slowly, she shook her head. Tears rolled down her face. "I love you." Kelvin smiled sadly. "I know, but love is not enough anymore." The smile disappeared. Kelvin closed his eyes. The words hit him harder than any slap, because deep down, he knew she was right. Hours later, Mrs. Vivian received the news. Mirabel had refused. Again. The woman became furious, absolutely furious. She immediately called her lawyers. "Start the process." The lawyer nodded. "Take back everything, the house, the supermarket, everything." 3 days later, a court notice arrived. Mama Grace opened it. Her hand started shaking. The politician's family was serious, very serious. That evening, Mirabel sat quietly inside the supermarket, looking at the shelves. Soon, all this would be gone. Everything. The business, the house, their future. Suddenly, someone walked into the shop. It was Daniel, holding 2 bags of groundnuts. Mirabel laughed. "Why are you buying groundnuts in a supermarket?" Daniel grinned. "Do rich people also eat groundnuts?" "Who said I'm rich? You look rich." "Ah," I touched my chest dramatically. "Thank you." Mirabel laughed again. Then Daniel noticed the court papers. His smile disappeared. What happened? Mirabel told him everything. Again. Daniel became quiet. Very quiet. Then he asked one question. How much exactly do they want? Mirabel mentioned the amount. Daniel nodded slowly, as if calculating something. Then he stood up. Okay. Mirabel frowned. Okay, what? Daniel smiled. A solution is coming. Mirabel laughed bitterly. From where? Daniel simply smiled. A mysterious smile, the kind that made no sense. That night, Daniel entered a massive royal estate outside the city. Security guards immediately saluted. Workers bowed respectfully. An elderly man wearing a royal attire stood up. Your Highness. Daniel nodded. Grandfather. The old king smiled. Did you finally find the woman? Daniel smiled softly. And for the first time, we discovered the truth. Daniel was not an ordinary businessman, not even close. He was a prince and the heir to one of the richest royal families in the country.
3 days later, the politician's family finally made their move. Lawyers arrived early in the morning. Court officials followed behind. The entire neighborhood gathered outside. People whispered, "They are coming to seize the house. They are closing the supermarket. That poor family is finished." Inside the house, Mama Grace sat on the floor crying. Uncle Sunday looked defeated. Nobody knew what to do anymore. Mrs. Vivian had won, or so she thought. A black luxury convoy suddenly entered the street. 4 SUVs. The entire neighborhood became silent. Even the lawyers stopped talking. The convoy finally stopped in front of the house. Then the door opened and Daniel stepped out. Calmly, confidently, as if he owned the entire street. Mrs. Vivian frowned. Who is this? Daniel smiled. A friend. Mirabel came outside. She was surprised. Daniel? Daniel walked toward her, then handed her a brown envelope. Give this to the lawyers. The lawyers opened it. Their faces immediately changed. One lawyer adjusted his glasses, then adjusted them again. Another lawyer read the document twice. Mrs. Vivian became impatient. What is it? Nobody answered. What is it? Finally, one lawyer cleared his throat. The full bride price has been refunded. Silence. Everybody froze. Mrs. Vivian laughed. You must be joking. The lawyer shook his head. The complete amount, every kobo, and there is proof of payment. The smile disappeared from her face. What? The lawyer continued. The traditional marriage has officially been dissolved. Mrs. Vivian looked shocked. That amount was huge, very huge. She knew Mirabel's family could never afford it. So where did the money come from? Then Daniel spoke. Now take your house. Mrs. Vivian smiled proudly. Good. And take your supermarket. Excellent. Daniel nodded. Take everything. The woman laughed. At least they know their place. Then Daniel looked at Mirabel and smiled. A calm smile. The kind of smile that hides a secret. Then he turned back to Mrs. Vivian. You can take those things because they no longer need them. Mrs. Vivian frowned. What nonsense are you talking about? Daniel snapped his fingers. Immediately another set of documents appeared. He handed them to Mama Grace. Congratulations. Mama Grace blinked. Congratulations for what? Daniel smiled. Congratulations for the shopping mall. What? The shopping mall I bought for you yesterday. The woman almost fainted. Everybody became confused. Shopping mall? Bought? Yesterday? What was happening? Then Daniel handed another document to Mirabel. And congratulations to you. Mirabel opened it. Her hands started shaking. The document showed ownership of a massive mansion,
A mansion bigger than Mrs. Vivian's own house. Far bigger. The crowd gasped. Mrs. Vivian's face changed. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Then an elderly man stepped out from one of the SUVs. The moment he appeared, several important men in the crowd immediately bowed. Some politicians greeted him respectfully. Even the court officials looked nervous. Mrs. Vivian frowned. She recognized the face. Everybody recognized the face. It was King Richard, one of the most respected traditional rulers in the country. King Richard smiled, then walked toward Daniel. My grandson. The entire street froze. Grandson? What? Mirabel looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at Mirabel, then smiled. Surprise. Mrs. Vivian staggered backward. No. Daniel nodded. Yes. The king laughed. My grandson didn't tell you. Mrs. Vivian could barely speak. The prince? This ordinary young man? This man she had ignored? This man she called nobody? The king continued. My grandson is the heir to our kingdom and one of the largest family businesses in the country. Silence. Absolute silence. For the first time in her life, Mrs. Vivian had nothing to say. Nothing. Daniel turned to Mirabel, then went down on one knee, right there in front of everybody. The crowd screamed, "Oh!" Even Mama Grace covered her mouth. Daniel looked into Mirabel's eyes, the same eyes that had cried, the same eyes that had suffered, the same eyes that never sold their dignity. Then he spoke. Mirabel, I cannot change your past, but I promise to protect your future. Tears filled her eyes. I promise that nobody will ever make you feel less than who you are again. The crowd became emotional. Even some men were secretly wiping their eyes, though they would never admit it. Never. Daniel smiled. Will you marry me? Mirabel cried. Actually cried. Happy tears. Then she nodded. Yes. The crowd exploded. Cheers, applause, celebration, joy. 6 months later, Mirabel and Daniel had the wedding of their dreams. No discrimination, no humiliation, no class division. Rich and poor sat together. Everybody ate. Everybody laughed. Everybody celebrated, including Mama Grace, who danced so much that her gele almost flew away. And Kelvin, he attended quietly, not because he was bitter, but because he truly loved Mirabel. He finally stood up to his mother, though it came too late. Sometimes, love is not lost because people stop loving each other. Sometimes, love is lost because one person failed to protect it. As for Mrs. Vivian, for the first time in her life, money could not save her from shame, because she finally learned a lesson. The lesson she should have learned long ago, that dignity has no price, and a poor person's child is not less human than a rich person's child. You know, this story stayed in my mind for a long time, not because of the prince, not because of the wealth, not even because of the wedding, but because of one simple question. Why do some people treat others badly simply because they have less money? Mirabel's mother sacrificed everything to raise her daughter. She worked hard, suffered alone, and did her best. Yet some people looked at her poverty and decided she was worth less than everyone else. The truth is, money can buy houses, cars, businesses, and influence. But money cannot buy character. Money cannot buy kindness. And money cannot buy respect. One thing life keeps teaching us is this: never look down on anybody. The person you ignore today may become the person God uses to humble you tomorrow. And sometimes, the greatest mistake a person can make is choosing comfort over dignity. Mirabel lost a house. She lost a supermarket. She lost security. But she kept her self-respect. And in the end, she gained something far more valuable: peace, respect, and true love. Now, tell us honestly, if you were Mirabel, would you have cancelled the wedding on that same day? Would you have forgiven Kelvin and gone back to him after everything his mother did? Do you think Kelvin deserved a second chance, or did Mirabel make the right decision? What lesson did this story teach you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's discuss. If this story touched your heart, don't leave without supporting the channel. Like this story if you believe nobody should be humiliated because they are poor. Share this story with someone who needs to hear this lesson today. And subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next emotional African family drama. And remember, never look down on people because of where they are today. Tomorrow belongs to God. See you in the next story.